Ferrari paid Lewis Hamilton $60 million to drive a car in 2025. Just his salary. Not bonuses, not endorsements. $60 million. Meanwhile, the entire McLaren team, engineers, mechanics, factories, wind tunnels, everything that actually builds the car, operates under a budget cap of $135 million. The math doesn't add up, and that's exactly the point. F1 teams pulled in $2.05 billion from sponsorships alone in 2024. Not merchandise, not prize money. Just brands slapping logos on side pods and halos. The average sponsorship deal is $6.22 million. Red Bull and Mercedes carry between 15 to 25 major sponsors each. Midfield teams typically run with 8 to 12. Oracle's deal with Red Bull, $300 million over 5 years. That's $60 million annually, which ironically is exactly what Hamilton cost Ferrari. Interestingly, technology companies alone dumped $543 million into F1 sponsorships last year. Because an airbox, that little intake above the driver's head, costs between $5 to $7.5 million for a single season of advertising. When Williams signed Atlassian as title sponsor in early 2025, it was the biggest deal in their 48-year history. The exact cost wasn't disclosed, but sources estimate it to be over £300 million. More than double what Williams was getting from previous title sponsors. A software company just saved a racing team. Yeah, the company behind Jira and Trello, apps literally designed to organize work, decided the best ROI for their millions is slapping their logo on a car that reaches 300 kilometers per hour in front of crowds who are, let's be honest, 3 beers deep and screaming at Turn 1 incidents. Somehow, that's peak marketing strategy in 2025. Now, of course, there's prize money. Liberty Media distributed $1.26 billion to teams in 2024. McLaren, winning their first constructors title since 1998, took home $140 million. Sauber, dead last, still got $60. But wait, Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren all received more in prize money than the entire cost cap allows them to spend. Red Bull took home $155 million. Ferrari got $148 million. And Mercedes pulled $142. Every single one of these teams earned enough from prize money alone to fund their entire season and still have tens of millions left over. They're making bank before selling a single t-shirt. Alright, the cost cap sits at $135 million for 2025. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. That covers car development, manufacturing, salaries for engineers and mechanics, wind tunnel time, simulators, transportation to 24 races, and every nut and bolt on the car. What it doesn't cover? Driver salaries, team principals, marketing, the top 3 highest paid employees. Max Verstappen earns $65 million a year. Combined, all 20 drivers take home $414 million. None of that touches the cap. The part nobody's talking about enough is that the cost cap jumps to $215 million in 2026. That's an $80 million increase. F1 is introducing the biggest regulation overhaul in its history, and that's exactly where the real separation happens. Because while everyone's focused on the $80 million jump, the dirty secret is how teams will actually spend that money and who gets to spend even more outside the cap. We'll get to that nightmare in a minute, but first, let's talk about what 2026 actually demands. New power units, active aerodynamics, sustainable fuels, smaller cars. The 2026 power units will run a 50-50 split between internal combustion and electric power, up from roughly 20% electric in current cars. I mean, that's a complete redesign. Audi's entering as a works team. Red Bull's building their own engines with Ford. Honda's coming back. Development costs for these new power units are huge. Between $300 to $500 million per manufacturer just for initial power unit development. Mercedes reportedly spent over $400 million developing their 2026 hybrid system. The FIA had to create something called Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities, basically a safety net for teams whose engines suck in 2026. If you're getting destroyed on power, you get extra development hours and cost cap relief to catch up. Teams can apply for additional wind tunnel time, up to 5% more if they're significantly behind. Cost cap relief can add 10 to 15 million in exemptions specifically for power unit catch-up development. Alpine used similar concessions in 2024 when their Renault power unit was down 15 horsepower on the leaders. They got an extra 40 hours of dyno testing and 12 million in cap relief. It helped, but they still finished 6th. Okay, let's game this out. Ferrari's valued at 4.78 billion, Mercedes at 3.94, Red Bull at 3.5 billion, and McLaren at 3.1. We all know F1 teams don't make money like normal businesses. They're not selling widgets. Sponsorships account for 60 to 80% of revenue for independent teams. Prize money is the baseline. Merchandise helps. These are manufacturer teams, or teams with massive backing, and they have infinite off-cap resources. McLaren leverages F1 success directly into road car sales and brand value. When they won the 2024 Constructors' Championship, their valuation jumped. Sponsorship inquiries doubled. That's a level of motivation independent teams just can't match. Ferrari's the same. When they win races, their stock price moves. Mercedes sells AMG models off the back of Sunday podiums. Now consider Haas, valued at 1 billion, the lowest on the grid. They don't build their own gearbox, suspension, or most of their components. They buy from Ferrari. Estimates suggest Haas spends 30 to 40 million of their 135 million cap just purchasing Ferrari parts. That's nearly a third of their budget gone before they design anything original. When the 2026 regulations hit, Haas has to develop a car for entirely new technical rules while Ferrari's dumping unlimited money into R&D outside the cap. And what if Ferrari's 2026 power unit sucks? Haas is locked in. They can't switch suppliers mid-season. If Ferrari delivers a dog of an engine, Haas runs it for an entire year, while Ferrari's factory team gets priority on fixes and upgrades. Delivery delays? Ferrari prioritizes their own team. Quality issues? Haas finds out on track, not in the factory. Testing gets compromised because they're assembling someone else's components with their own philosophy. Williams faced this nightmare with Mercedes gearboxes in the past. Parts arrived late, didn't integrate cleanly, and they spent half the season fixing someone else's problems. Sauber, soon to be Audi, operates the same way. Buy what you can, hope it works, pray your supplier doesn't screw you. Alpine tried building everything in-house and nearly bankrupted themselves. There's no winning move for bottom-tier teams. Build your own parts? Too expensive. Buy from others? You're always second priority. And come on, let's be honest. When's the last time a genuinely poor team won anything? Braun in 2009, and that only happened because Honda dumped hundreds of millions into development before pulling out and handing Ross Braun a championship-ready car for free. Even the greatest underdog story in F1 history required a manufacturer's blank check. The cost cap was supposed to level the field, but manufacturer teams with road car divisions can develop innovations externally and then integrate them into F1 without charging it to the cap. It's a loophole nobody wants to talk about. Testing used to be unlimited. Teams would run thousands of kilometers between races. Now, extremely limited testing windows. The cost cap forced mid-tier teams like Haas and Williams to actually become profitable for the first time. They're finally not hemorrhaging cash just to show up. But there's still a reality check. Ferrari employs over 1,000 people across their F1 operation. Haas employs around 300. Ferrari's Maranello facility has 7 wind tunnels, advanced simulators, and an entire road car division feeding technology into racing. Haas rents factory space and buys most components from Ferrari. Under the same 135 million cap, Ferrari optimizes 1,000 employees and world-class infrastructure. Haas stretches every dollar across 300 people and borrow tech. The cap is equal, the resources aren't. Mercedes F1's annual operation spending hovers around 180 million when you factor in excluded costs like driver salaries and facility upgrades. Williams operates closer to 150 million total. Both teams are theoretically equal under the cap, but Mercedes has access to Stuttgart's engineering resources, AMG's technology pipeline, and a parent company worth $70 billion. Williams has private equity investors and hope. When Toto Wolff says Mercedes spent within the cap, he's technically correct. But the parent company funded a new wind tunnel, upgraded simulators, and hired aerodynamicists whose salaries fall outside the cap's top 3 exemption. Williams just can't do that. They're genuinely capped. And it's not just Mercedes. Red Bull's parent company, the energy drink empire, funds their Milton Keynes factory, pays for facility expansions, and bankrolls marketing campaigns that indirectly benefit the racing team. None of that touches the cost cap. Ferrari's road car division develops hybrid technology, active suspension concepts, and lightweight materials that magically appear in their F1 car the next season. The cost? Charged to the road car budget, not F1. Meanwhile, Alpine, technically backed by Renault, still operates like an independent team because Renault's automotive division is bleeding money and can't subsidize racing. So Alpine's manufacturer backing is a joke compared to Mercedes or Ferrari. They're stuck in no man's land. Too big to be scrappy, too poor to be a real manufacturer team. The reality is that spending across teams is wildly unequal, and the cost cap only controls what happens inside the F1 accounting books. Outside those books, man, it's a free-for-all. Rich teams build new facilities, hire top talent under non-F1 contracts, and develop technology in parallel programs. Poor teams count every bolt and hope their outdated wind tunnel doesn't break mid-season. The cost cap didn't level the playing field. It just moved the spending somewhere the rulebook doesn't look. Oh, the teams at the bottom are playing a different sport entirely. One where survival is the victory and podiums are fantasies. Team prize money payments jumped 18% from 2024 to 2025, from $435 million to $513 million in just the second quarter. F1's revenue is exploding. Liberty Media grew F1 revenue from $1.78 billion in 2017 to $3.4 billion in 2025, a 91% jump in just 7 years. Ironically, as F1 gets richer, the teams are more constrained than ever. The cost cap keeps them on a leash while prize pools and sponsorship opportunities balloon. So, what happens in 2026? Well, the best case, the $80 million cost cap increase lets teams develop properly. The new power units are competitive. Audi and GM Cadillac bring fresh energy and sponsorship dollars. Close racing continues. But the worst case, one manufacturer nails the power unit and everyone else is lost. Mercedes is widely believed to be ahead on 2026 development. If they dominate like they did in 2014 when hybrid regs launched, we're looking at another decade of one-team domination. The cost cap means rivals can't just throw money at the problem to catch up. But even with the cost cap, some teams have a massive advantage. Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull Ford all have parent companies or partnerships that can fund unlimited external development. Wind tunnels, simulators, materials research, aerodynamic concepts, all developed outside F1 and then conveniently integrated into the race car. McLaren and Audi have serious backing too. So who's really gambling in 2026? Williams, Haas, Alpine, and RB. Williams is hoping their Mercedes power unit carries them. Haas is praying Ferrari doesn't deliver a disaster. Alpine's Renault engine has been mid-pack for years. If that continues in 2026, well, they're stuck there. RB is Red Bull's junior team running Red Bull Ford engines, but they get last priority on parts and upgrades. These teams don't have external resources to fall back on. They live and die by the 135 million cap, soon to be 215 million, and whatever their engine supplier gives them. If their power unit sucks or arrives late, they just can't outspend the problem. They just lose. For an entire season, maybe longer. Every additional race beyond 21 Grands Prix adds 1.2 million to the cap per race. That number increases in 2026. With 24 races planned, teams get more budget, but also more strain on personnel, logistics, and equipment. Red Bull Racing generated an estimated $350 million in total revenue in 2024 through sponsorships, prize money, and licensing. Merchandise added another 15 to 20 million on top of that. Jerseys, hats, model cars, the works. They spent every available dollar under the cap on car development, then another 100 million outside the cap on drivers, leadership, and marketing. Net operating margin? Healthy. Alfa Romeo, now Sauber, generated around 250 million. After operational costs, driver salaries, and development, they're barely breaking even. Margins around 2 to 5%. And that's before the 2026 overhaul demands another 80 million in spending just to stay competitive. Independent teams are fighting to stay financially viable, while manufacturers treat F1 as a marketing budget line item. Honestly, the cost cap rising to 215 million is a necessity. You can't ask teams to develop revolutionary power units and active aero systems on a starvation budget, but it also resets the financial order. We talked about a lot of numbers. The money's there. The question is whether smaller teams can survive the development arms race 2026 is going to trigger. Haas, Williams, Alpine, they're not backed by automotive giants. They rely on sponsorships and prize money. When the cost cap jumps 80 million, they don't magically find 80 million in revenue. They cut corners. They take risks. They hope their gambles pay off. The 2026 regulations will determine if F1's cost cap experiment worked or if it just delayed the inevitable. A sport where only manufacturer-backed teams can truly compete at the front. And honestly, we'll know by mid-2026 which teams got it right. Because in F1, there's no hiding when your power unit's down on horsepower or if your aero concept is fundamentally flawed. The stopwatch doesn't lie. The money will keep flowing. Sponsors will keep paying. Fans will keep watching. But the teams that survive 2026 won't be the ones with the biggest budgets, they'll be the ones who spend smartest. That's the new F1. And it's about to get expensive. So what do you think? Are we heading into the most competitive era F1's ever seen? Or are we about to watch manufacturers crush everyone under the weight of unlimited off-cap spending? Drop your honest take in the comments. And if you're here for more F1 breakdowns that actually explain how this sport works behind the scenes, subscribe. You won't regret it.